It is 6 o'clock, and this is a special call work session on amendments to our code. And this is a work session, so I don't have to call the meeting to order. We're here. Just for those that want to make comment, I'd like to make a statement. We value public opinion and appreciative of those of you who took time to attend today. The rules of decorum will be followed. Each speaker must state their name and address at the podium, please. This is not a question and answer session, and no response from the BOC is required. But if any member of the BOC wants to respond and engage in conversation, they so can. And we just ask that people don't clap or cause any disturbances. This one shouldn't be one of those. This should be a nice, even level meeting. And I've had a request, Sharna, that those are here to speak on a particular item, that we bring those up first so that they may go on and enjoy their evening. And I like that too. So does any of the board want to make a comment before we start? And I think the helipad airstrip, I see representatives here want to make comments on it and get a better understanding of what we're trying to do. So if we can pull that one, is that number 7? Which one is that?
That's number 11.
Number 11.
Yes. Okay, so I'll just start out with amendment number 11. This is an amendment to Article 6, airstrip private, and it would be deleting what we have in place currently and replacing it in its entirety. I did send this to, I'm sure it's one of the gentlemen that are here tonight that wanted to be able to look at this and offer some suggestions. So what you see on your paper that's highlighted in yellow is some suggestions from the public. But this is just, it's putting something in place so that if a person has a helicopter or a private, private use airplane, this puts some guidelines in place. I'm sure that y'all have all looked at it. We do have some concerns about how we would handle this with code enforcement. They're going to be landing in hours probably that we're not going to be at work or whatever. Also, the ones that currently exist, if this is something that the board approves, then we would need to determine how we want to handle moving forward to get everybody on the record that currently has a landing strip or a helipad as grandfathered in, or however the board chooses to do that. I think that we could handle it like a business license, and issue that once a year. A business license is $75. We renew it every year, send out a renewal so that they're reminded. But we would need some kind of time frame and to be able to get it out on social media so that we could, everybody that currently has one, we could get those on.
What's the estimate of how many we have in the county?
I honestly have no idea.
We have no idea.
There's a few that are listed on the FAA website, but I don't think they all are. So.
Personally, if they have them now and they're not causing a problem and there's no complaints, we should grandfather them in and just renew it from now until they don't want to have it anymore. My personal opinion.
I agree with that.
And so,
We got 3 agree with that statement.
Okay.
Right quick.
and then, like I said, if you've got any questions about what
Now,
is on here or.
Of course, that in some areas,
Well,
Yeah.
the couple that are here are sitting on 800 acres and
I understand that.
350.
Blanket statement that was
That is a blanket.
in the neighborhood, you know,
If we've had complaints, then that statement doesn't stand.
Wouldn't apply.
And
We
true.
had one helicopter landing in a subdivision a few years ago, but
and we prosecuted that based on our regulations at the time, and it was not allowed, and it was stopped.
Well, you don't want them landing in a developed subdivision.
Right.
I see in the very near future, in the next 10 years, there'll be cars that are hovering and landing. I really do.
yeah.
And you can laugh at it now. I laughed at them talking on a wristwatch when I was a kid, and look what's going on right
That's
now.
right, yeah.
But the distance from a road, where did that requirement come from?
Okay, so what I did, Chairman, is we didn't have anything at all. So I got, I don't try to reinvent the wheel. I look online and I try to find some, that are,
From other counties?
yeah, from other counties.
Okay.
Pretty sensible. And then I did, send it out to some of the citizens in the county that I know do have, a helicopter or a private plane.
Well, we have several grass plane strips in the
We do.
county. And I see the red balls on the power line. Who regulates that? Does the EMC, or do they just get that done, or what?
I think it's the FAA, is that?
We can call and identify as a hazard, and they'll come and mark them. They'll come do that for you.
Just the private individual asked to have it marked for safety reasons.
Hit the wire.
Who
Right.
marks it? Is it the power company that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Does the federal and state have any guidelines, I guess, I'm sure there's no.
There's,
nothing at FAA. Is that the
Well, we've got on here, all operations shall be constructed in a manner consistent with the applicable chapters of the Federal Aviation Regulations, CFR Title 14. And that was given to me from a citizen.
And where did the 50 acres come from?
That was from another ordinance. That was not something that we, that was just,
And then the 2,500 foot landing strip?
right. Yep.
Because, there's a lot of planes that, Matt can probably tell me better than this.
A Super Duck can land easily in 500,000 feet very easily.
Right.
These things, the approach is partial quarter. You wouldn't want them obviously flying immediately over a subdivision or something like that.
Sure.
Landing and takeoff area itself, there's a lot of manufactured aircraft that can take off and land at 500,000 feet very easily.
Right.
About 100 probably would work. It's not cookie cutter, one size fits all. It's not like a jet
Sure.
require 1,000 feet on the pay. Very simple. Small aircraft can save probably about 500,000.
Sure. Pretty much anything we have in the county right now out there is what they're landing on. Because there's one like right there off Pleasant Valley that I see them come in and out all the time, and I don't know how much land he's got, but like,
Yeah. He got 20 acres without,
I've seen it happen, and it's like
We just looked it
really
up.
safe. Like they'll come
He
in
got
and
25
like
acres.
it's like they wave at each other, and like they talk to each other on the radio, and they'll come in, take a dip, and then go back up. Some of them stop and go to the bathroom and leave. Pretty neat. 300 feet.
Sharna, part of the discussion, part of the discussion that may help all this is what's wrong with the current ordinance and what do we,
Yeah, well-
what do these additional, recommendations add to that?
Well, the current ordinance appears to be for public authority. All such uses proposed for public authority is how it starts out. There's not anything that would have applied to something that's private.
Gotcha. So this just adds in
It
some
does.
requirements to the
Yes.
private section.
And, premise of all these it's not in there, it's not allowed. So if you want to have the ability for people to do it, then you have to have regulations
That's-
spelled out.
That was where I was headed.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Probably a
right.
good idea we know where these things are in case there is ever an accident, you know?
It would definitely help public safety.
Yeah.
And, you know, do you want to, we could say that they're allowed in every zoning except R1 or R2, or, just allow in the A, A1, A2, or either commercial, So that would be, and I don't think anybody that currently has one would be blocked out from that. If we allowed it in the zoning A, A1, A2, and then the commercial.
But not as a right, I mean, you still have to have setbacks and all that.
Oh, yeah, in compliance with the guidelines.
And then wasn't there something in there about how many they can have on their property? Like how many aircraft they can have?
No more than 3 at one,
No
3
more than
stored on
3?
property.
So it doesn't become more like a hangar type need and
Right.
things.
But like some of the, like the one on Pleasant Valley, I don't know how many he's got, but like he's got some really old, like antique aircraft. It's an aircraft I'm sure it would run. I don't know that it ever does, but it's more like it's really cool. Y'all probably been over there, but.
I mean, I don't, again, I don't write these or weigh in on the policy, but I think the idea is probably where whoever put that requirement in somewhere else is probably the way to guard against some kind of commercial operation. When you've got a separate regulation that says no commercial, so I don't know why it
Sure.
matters how many you have,
Exactly.
as long as you're not.
As long as it's not commercial.
So that's just my, that's just my reading of it. A lot of times you see
Yeah.
places put something like that in there to guard against something that's already in there, so.
Sure.
And you could also add, no more than a maximum of 3 for the A, A1, and A2. So that way if you are in the commercial area, you don't have a
Yeah.
limitation.
If we're going to need to enforce it, other than the initial permit, it sure would be nice not to have to go out counting airplanes.
It would be, we're spread thin as it is. I'd rather just have general rule,
Okay,
permit
I'll
it,
just take that off then.
Well, and that's like to,
be done with
yeah,
it.
that's like to Lee's point, there may be a collection, and you don't want to get into somebody
Yeah.
that wants to collect.
Or they
Well-
could have a rodeo one day at somebody's place, and there'd be 30 of them come in for that one event or something.
Well, it says cannot be used for organized events, though. That's one of the regulations, right? G says you can't use it for organized, so they couldn't do a rodeo, correct?
Well, that would be for like the organized aviation events. So he's saying if they were having a rodeo, then, and everybody's flying, is that what you were talking about?
I'm just throwing something out there.
Oh, he does?
I
Oh,
know we, as a county and first responders, use any available site when there's an accident
Okay.
for med flights. Church parking lots, anything, and I don't think we need
yeah,
to
this
get.
wouldn't apply. Yeah, this wouldn't apply to that.
This isn't designed to deal with that situation.
Oh,
Yeah.
and I just don't want to restrict
I don't think it matters how many somebody has.
me either.
But it does prohibit an organized aviation event such as
Yeah.
skydiving, air shows.
Yeah, I mean, it
Then
is,
it's getting commercial then.
that's commercial.
That's commercial, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't want to turn it into, you just can't have somebody's 5-acre tract have it, so that gets a little out of hand. So
Well, it gets out of hand, but you have certain situations like the hurricane that just came through the Carolinas, and I know there's choppers from here flying, organizing, flying stuff in.
again, that's an emergency situation that I don't think the ordinance, nobody's going to get a citation for emergency.
I don't see us giving any citations anyway. We don't have an air patrol group. But
We might need a patrol helicopter.
Yeah, that's the toughest thing is like, how could like enforcing something like this is more of a monstrosity than what's on the book, so.
I think it would be one of those to where if you decide to move forward, it gives us some teeth
It
if it
gives some
becomes a
sort of-
problem, but I don't foresee it. become.
give some sort of guidelines. I'd like to see the 50 acres lowered to 20.
20, okay.
I agree with that,
The
Mr.
length of
Chairman.
the landing strip, like maybe reduced to 1,000 instead of 2,500 minimum?
Could you use language on the length of the landing strip for the guidelines of the aircraft that's going to be landing there?
Right.
Okay, this is the runway for fixed-wing aircraft should be at least 2,500 feet.
2,500 is considerably long from what we've been told on.
So you want that,
Might
So
need to
you
ask
could
some
do-
pilots.
You could do a minimum of 1,200 feet.
for a fixed-wing aircraft, 1,200?
2,500 would be a commercial airport. You can have
Okay.
a commercial airport with 2,500.
Okay,
Yeah, 1,200 feet for the private little planes is plenty.
okay. All right, for an area extending 200 feet on each side for the full length of the runway, and 400 on both ends?
That seems excessive to me.
What that is runway protection zone. That's so there's not a structure
Okay.
located in that.
Right. And we've got that covered anyway.
That would be like if it was a residence adjacent.
Well, it wouldn't be allowed if there's a residence within that.
That's right, we've already got that covered, so.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll just change it to the runway for fixed-wing aircraft shall be at least 1,200 feet long. Period,
And a minimum of 20 acres.
okay?
Good.
Okay,
Now, what about maintenance? We'll address commercial maintenance, but they can do what is commercial maintenance? That means, they can do their own, they can work on their own planes, right? But they couldn't do it like as a business? Is that what that means?
I think, yeah, like an airplane
Right.
garage.
You know, if you're operating a business, like a charter service or something.
Okay, but they can do their own maintenance on their own plane, they just couldn't do it in a commercial business? Okay,
okay, so maybe, Chairman, what we should do is leave the, is not take it and delete it in its entirety and just change the top portion for commercial. And then we'll have the bottom, this new for private.
I thought all of this was for private.
I know, but what's in our ordinance right now? I mean, any such use is proposed by public authority to allow for a regular airport in a commercial area.
Well,
So don't take it out.
I think this is intended to be for private,
It is.
so
It
I'd
is.
like to take it out. If some public authority is trying to put in an airport, what you do
Okay.
with that?
They're going to have to start off with FFA,
All right,
aren't they?
good enough.
Yeah, I think what we're missing.
FAA.
Is better language on a private
Yeah.
situation. And we don't have anything about helipads at all, so I think that's what that's designed for. So I think to answer your question, I think you would strike what was there before, because it really didn't have any applicability.
All right,
Thompson, when you said 20 acres, that's for the airstrip? or
that's for the airstrip,
And the helipad is,
not the helipad.
Two separate?
So you got 5 acres in there for the helipad, but it can't be right next to residential, property line.
and so
You've
we
got-
need to define a time frame, and to get it out on our public, everything we've got that we can get, and for y'all by word of mouth, so that anybody that has an existing one has a certain time frame to come in and register with us.
Yeah, we'll need to advertise, and we'll do this at the board meeting. This is just recommending tonight for the board
Right, but
meeting.
I was just saying, I probably needed to add it to the,
I would recommend at least January.
Yeah, January.
We can do a lot of trying to
And
get the
then
word out in
those
different
that need
ways.
to be grandfathered in, be grandfathered.
If you choose to be, register your existing, I believe a January 1st deadline would be appropriate.
All right?
okay.
And I do believe the county knows, because they get me for property tax. They don't work out.
Hey, I should check the text.
Oh, really?
So we need to talk to Tommy.
Yeah, I'll call Tommy.
I paid 1 month this year, but I paid a whole year property tax.
Well, good.
January vote.
We need the money.
You want to give, to the extent there's folks from the public.
Yeah,
that wanna
to give them, if they want an opportunity to speak.
give them an opportunity.
Yeah, anybody, you want to just speak for the record, please?
Good evening. My name is Bruce Verge, 4795 Snows Mill Road. I do think this is important. I think Shauna was working on this when I came down. I know there's surrounding counties that are dealing with this same problem, and it's really coming from the public complaining. I've seen it on Good Hope happening. You know, they're mad that we're flying up in the sky. I guess they own that part too. So eventually it will be a problem, and I think we're on the right track here to put this ordinance in, and two, that you know where these helicopters are, because we don't want to completely ban them, right? We do help the public in need. We did it recently with North Carolina, and we do it locally here with people when occasions arise. So I think this is something that has to happen, and I know Shauna's got a lot of input from us, so I think we're on the right track. I think if we can get a finalized kind of what it looks like, then we'll be able to, look at it, give us another opinion, and then move forward with it. But I'm all for it. I think it needs to happen now than later, because things seem to get complicated around here. So
All right.
we're going to beat that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Board. My name's Matt West, 3125 Highway 186 in Good Hope. And like Bruce, I also support the ordinance. I'm a professional pilot, fly jets, I fly helicopters, and been doing so for over 20 years. I appreciate the board holding this work session to get the public's opinion, and also Sharna reaching out to some of the aviation professionals in the community. And I don't know that this is completely necessary at the current time, but I know with the changing scope, I think it will become necessary at some point, and it's probably good to go ahead and get the ordinance on the books, and I'm in support.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to make a comment about the helipad and airstrips? All right. Appreciate that. Appreciate y'all coming. And Sharna, with the corrections for recommendation at our next board meeting
Yes, sir.
on number 11. Now, is there anyone here for another amendment in particular? We're trying to pull the ones that public comment need to be made on.
I think number 7, the agriculture resource.
Number 7?
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll pull it to the front so y'all won't have to spend the whole evening with us.
I'm just going to defer to the attorney.
Jeff Deloach, office address is 1220 Langford Drive, Watkinsville, Georgia. I was just here a couple weeks ago with y'all and had some questions. I think maybe Mr. Warren, who isn't here tonight, but had some questions, and y'all gave me a chance to share some of that. So I exchanged a little bit of information with the manager as well. And so we're just here. Ben Cooper is here from Vanguard Renewables. He is, that's the company that we also have an application then for a conditional use that would come before you all if you all choose to adopt this amendment. And so Ben came down because we wanted to be here to answer questions tonight, because we understand if there are any, we wanted to be ready to handle them the best we could, Mr. Chairman. So I really don't have anything to add as an opening or anything to what we shared last time, but I will say I appreciate being able to work with Sharna on this, and we tried to craft something that gives you an opportunity to consider something as a conditional use, so that it's always going to have to come back to you, and you're going to have an ample opportunity to consider how the use will affect Walton County, and have provided parameters that make sense and have been used other places. So with that, Mr. Chairman, we'll answer any questions.
All right, John, you want to, we've been doing a crash course on.
Have you made official application yet, so we know the location?
Yes, we submitted.
Sorry, can you maybe pull up a map of that?
Sure.
I think one of the questions that came in after your presentation is about truck traffic.
Yes.
And how that may impact the area and the condition and the quality of the road that's there.
And what I would say, first, I think that's a question we would anticipate and expect and need to address. And certainly, I think, and it is addressed and would be discussed in connection with the conditional use application. We can share that tonight as much as y'all want to hear about this particular, this particular use and the location that Sharna's pulling up. But certainly, I'll go ahead and say, in connection with the application we've actually made, we'd also, Vanguard is prepared to look at even if there's a need to improve a road. That is something that could be part of a condition of passing a conditional use. So just go ahead and let y'all know that while she's working to get locked in. And I can tell y'all that the property is the Marlowe Farm, which is out, I think of it, of course, I'm from Oconee County, so I don't know the county quite as well, but I think of it as kind of the northernmost sort of tip of the county.
Highway 11 over on the.
It's off of George Williams Road.
Yep.
Is where it is. So, I know she's getting there. You're fine.
You said there was no other facilities within how many miles of why Georgia and why Walton County?
I'm sorry, sir?
You said why Georgia and why Walton County?
Yeah, good question. So, and I can let Ben jump in too, to the extent I don't answer correctly. Georgia, because Walton is one of a few counties where they are looking to put these facilities, so you're not the only one. There's a unique set of circumstances that you need to have to make these work well for the community they're in, for the farmer you're partnering with, and for the company that is making this large investment in the facility. Those things include having a large enough farm and acreage that you can handle the what's called digestate, but think of it as a form of soil amendment. You want to have a very comprehensive and appropriate plan for using that soil amendment product so that it benefits the farmer and does not, you're not going to put too much of it on land. So you have to have a large enough farm to partner with. So that's one factor. Two, you have to be close enough to ideally you want to pipe it, but if you're not piping it close enough to truck to the primary component I talked about last time of this is the natural gas that's produced, right? And so as you gather that natural gas, you need to be close enough to put that into the natural gas grid. So that's another component. And third, I would say you want to be close enough to an area that produces enough food waste that it makes the food waste component of that easily accessible, and you have people to partner with to get the food waste that goes into the digester. And then lastly, you are sourcing some cow manure, and so you got to be somewhere close enough that you can source that, although it's a smaller component, that you're using the cow manure that you're taking from a farmer. So all of those things go into, did I do a good job, Ben? Yeah. Okay. All of those things go into trying to pick a partner, a good farming partner. Now, the other thing is you have to have a farmer that is committed and wants to keep their land agricultural for a long time, because these are not short-term leases. You're talking about a facility that Vanguard Renewables is looking to, and these are estimates, somewhere between $20 and $40 million in infrastructure, and then a lease that then has to be long enough that the farmer wants to stay agricultural. And I think leases now, in this case with Marlowe Farms, is 20 years. So that's one of the big things that we spoke about with Sharna that we view as a real benefit to agricultural communities that value having farmland. I grew up in one. I still kind of live in one. This is a way to allow your property owners who have farms to keep working farms and have it economically viable for a very long period of time going forward. And so I view it, among the advantages, there's a preservation of farmland component of this that we think is really significant.
Can you get a little bit more detailed? Because I understand there's going to be food waste trucked in.
Sure.
There's going to be potentially cow manure trucked in, and then potentially, I don't know, can you locate where you can tap into the gas line, or do you truck that out?
We're going through that due diligence process right now, so that component has not been decided definitively.
Yeah, can you just give us an idea of what the daily traffic may be?
Sure, so what we assume is it's going to be 10 to 20 trucks per day, ranging from, kind of small box trucks to full-size 18-wheelers.
Okay.
It'd be tanker truck.
Yeah.
Enclosed tankers.
And I think that's some of the questions that I was having posed about that. The other thing I think would help to discuss is that this is an A1 currently. Also, A1 allows for residential, and I think that there's only a proposed 50-foot buffer.
in
So
this-
if you can help us with that a little bit.
This supplemental, so this amendment actually is an amendment to agricultural only.
Yeah, I understand that, but we have
So-
residential in agriculture.
Yes, sir. So what we contemplate being required is a property, you all would have to have either an and I'm going to answer your question,
Okay.
an agricultural property, or in the case of this particular property, rezone it to agricultural, asking for a conditional use where you look at all your conditional use requirements to see if you're satisfied they've been met.
Okay.
And then if you're satisfied they've been met so that they don't negatively influence residential or property values or the things that your conditional use application requires to be addressed, then only in those instances would you allow this. So again, today, we have no false sense that just you passing this text amendment means you're going to approve our conditional use. There's, Sharna will be looking all the way through this conditional use. She'll be providing, the staff comments. You all certainly will have more questions and detailed, I'm sure, interest in this particular request. The idea is that the text amendment would allow someone, such as us, to come to you with a conditional use like this, where we see it as a potential significant benefit to Walton County to be.
How many acres does the actual facility take up?
Approximately 15.
15.
This particular, we drafted, working together, we drafted saying you had to have at least 10 for the site.
So that's why you're not looking at industrial parks or?
Sir?
I was just wondering why a facility like this would not look at a true industrial park
'Cause-
with sewer and the other infrastructure
'Cause
that it
it's a-
sounds like it needs. I mean, with 20 trucks a day coming in and out, and it just seems like a lot for agricultural.
The problem, Mr. Chairman, is it has to be on a farm, because the digestate that comes out of it, the volume of that, you can't even just have a small farm. You have to have enough acreage that there's a smaller amount of solid digestate, although you can adjust that depending on what the farmer wants. If the farmer needs more solid, then you can do that. But it's a liquid digestate without odor or very limited odor that replaces their other soil amendment. So it is a superior soil amendment without odor that needs to be in a farming location.
That's Dick Tracy stuff. How's that going to be odorless?
So I'll tell you how, because I've actually put my nose in a can of it, and it smelled.
Better man than me.
My description of it is that it smells like dirt. If you know, like where I grew up, we say it smells like dirt. Here's how. It goes through the anaerobic digestive process. The whole goal of that is to break it down and collect all the gas. So all of the things that make it smell,
Yeah.
all the things that make it smell are captured and collected in a closed system. So that then what comes out is this nutrient-rich digestate where you've taken out the stuff that usually makes things smell. I'm not going to tell you it has no odor at all, but it is, compared to what is typically used as a...
Chicken manure.
Yeah, well, goodness gracious, it's, yeah.
That's what we're used to.
It's not even in the same world, but even other things, it has virtually no odor. And that's why it's been really popular in places where it's gone.
Let me share with you what research we've been able to do.
Sure.
And this is probably what the chairman was referring to. Another company, I believe, there's a ribbon cutting on October 14th, I believe, for one in Rome, Georgia, in Floyd County. And this is where I might need to get a little bit more understanding about some of your other comments. They approved one, but they approved it in an industrial park connected to municipal sewer so that, one, they could support the farming community, but also accommodate the truck traffic, the digestate. They basically do a process there where it can be accepted by the municipal waste stream. And from my understanding from running municipal waste streams, that could be a very beneficial addition to keep the all the bugs and everything working. So in that one, the applicant avoided the truck question and avoided the zoning question because it was already allowed. So that's, help us understand the idea behind it needs to be on a farm.
We're not accepting municipal waste.
No, this is not municipal
And-
waste. This is organic, the same thing listed that you have there.
Okay, so, and I'll let you jump in if you want, but I'll quickly say, I'm not familiar with that particular one, so I can't speak to the difference. I know kind of the model of this, and the way they've done it has been in connection with farms, because that's the partnership that works to provide all the benefits that we
Yeah,
think.
makes sense. I'm trying to figure out the distance because they chose not to have those user conflicts
I guess
that would be in an agricultural zone.
the connection to the municipal sewer is what I wasn't sure I understood. You're saying-
They don't truck it off. They actually produce so much of the digestate that they aren't even attempting to remove it from the municipal waste stream.
Yeah, and
You're trying to put it on as a fertilizer.
correct.
And that's really the value proposition for the farmers. And, us as a company, our mission is to help, make American farmers more sustainable and be able to, kind of continue for the long run. And so you could take, what's produced by our system and put it into a wastewater treatment plant. But, a huge piece of our value proposition and our mission is to work with farmers and help provide them this nutrient-rich fertilizer that is able to, replace the expensive synthetic fertilizer that they're purchasing now and help them, boost crop yield and operate for the long term.
Would you ever get to the level of producing such a quantity that you have to truck it off? Because it just seems like routine 20 trucks a day would end up producing quite a bit, and how much can you actually put on that farm?
So the facilities that we build, they're only able to accept that volume of food waste material. So they're not able, effectively we're operating at, close to 100% of our capacity. And so we wouldn't have the ability to, double the material that we would accept coming in. And so we're very deliberate in selecting the farms that we work with to be able to host one of these systems. And so, we wouldn't end up working with a farm that only had 50 acres just because they wouldn't have the ability to take on this material. And
So you size it based on the farm. What's the acreage remaining after you take off 20 for the facility?
15 for this facility, and this particular site, hold on, has 233 acres on this track, but my recollection is they have they have contiguous
Additional
tracts.
property.
Correct.
I think, I believe they have about 1,200 acres.
Yeah.
Okay.
There
In
on the
total.
operating farm.
Gotcha.
So as I understand the soil amendments, they're regulated actually by the Department of Agriculture here, right? And so I think you have to get approved application rates, right? And so
What's that, 50?
as I understood your comments last time, you're not planning on taking the byproduct that's produced anywhere but staying on the site.
That's correct.
And you're saying you would still stay within the application rates that the state would allow?
In fact, that's an important piece, is going back to the mission of the company is to help benefit farmers. And so this becomes a fertilizer for free for them. And there is a very, to your point, a very, I'll say detailed, but specific plan for using the soil amendment to make sure you're not overloading, that you're applying the proper amount to maximize crop yield or whatever it is they're trying to do. And you're right, it's also regulated where you're not going to be able to do that.
Right, so in theory, if you're producing more than what would be allowed to be put on that farm, then you'd have to stop production.
You shut off the spigot. Correct.
And I mean, there's additional extensive permitting that we go through the state, be it, an air permit and, a permit for the food waste being trucked in, as well as the soil amendment. And so there's a number of regulations through the Department of Agriculture, as well as the Georgia EPD, that we need to follow. And if those were not followed, then, the system would not be able to operate.
But so if one of their concerns was somehow you're going to produce so much that you have to take it other places, if they put a condition that you could only deposit the byproduct there, then y'all would be comfortable with that?
As long as there is there in the contiguous acreage, absolutely.
Can you speak to water quality? Because this is somewhere near, quite adjacent to the headwaters of our water supplies. So that would be helpful if you could kind of speak to that too.
I'll let Ben add to this, but what I can say is that obviously there's no change to what the farmer has, the requirements already on the farmer as far as their soil amendments, right? So this doesn't change any of what they already are required to do to protect the water quality. And in fact, what this, based on what goes in to the digester and then what comes out, this is a very, and I hate to use the word clean, that's probably not a good, but in the layman's terms, a fertilizer product that does not carry a lot of the risks that you get with other kinds of commercial fertilizers. So Ben, you'll do better than me. I should have.
And I mean, as you just said, that's already being regulated by the soil amendment, as well as additionally the solid waste permit from the Georgia EPD for the food waste that would be coming in. And so those are, regulated and monitored. And, as you said, the farmer is already needing to comply with the soil amendment and the nutrient loading. And I mean, that's a key piece of why we're not able to work with a farm that has 100 acres, is because, the farm needs to have enough acreage to be able to adequately receive this nutrient-rich material without, overloading the soil and violating that soil amendment.
Okay, thank you. Sure.
This is kind of the same principle. I know a couple golf courses that runs off partially treated sewage water.
Gray water? Yeah.
The Sugar Hill, the one over at Winder here, Chimneys. And what they always ran into was they run into rainy times when it can't take anymore. So this is going to do the same thing.
Here's to go back to Mr. Ferguson's question. If the plan for the soil amendment results in, you say, a rainy season, I mean, all that has to be considered for the plan, right? So the approved plan should consider normal rain, but you're right, if an exceptional circumstance occurs, they may have to slow or stop production because they couldn't produce any more based on what we've made clear, which is there's no intent for this to come off of the location. Does that answer your question, Mr. Banks?
We could look at if we wanted to.
So there is not, Vanguard does not operate one in Georgia, but you've got Maine, well, I'll let you, Maine.
Yeah, we have a handful of operational facilities up in Massachusetts and Vermont that are all on our website, and we're also able to share some, information and pictures. And if you wanted to come up and see one of the facilities in, the Massachusetts or Vermont area, we'd be happy to host.
Talk to the farmer.
I would not want to come up and view the facility, but I would love contact information of the county and municipalities and the ones that permitted what you have, so we can get more comfortable with. Big thing that worries me, George Williams Road is a really not a arterial artery in the county. It went to the old covered bridge that we used to have here in the county. The Marlows just sold 8 or 10 strips off their farm, and they built new homes over there. And there'll be other tracks close to them that'll probably get cut up more residential. And we don't want to have an odor problem or anything like that, which sounds like we won't. But I'd like to talk to the county officials where you're at your other 2 plants.
We'll be
or
glad.
John. And I like the idea. I used to farm. I mean, we used the chicken litter, and when the rains did come, it did stink for a day or 2. But any other questions from the board?
Yes, sir.
Is this thing like what holds the gas? Is it on top of the ground or under the ground?
It's on top of the ground. The digester is
You ever
built
had
on.
one to blow up?
It's a depressurized system, and so it doesn't have the ability to explode. That's one of the things that is a common concern and is asked in every one of these meetings we host. And because of the design of the system, it's not possible for this system to explode.
I would like a card. I might want to receive one.
How big a tank is it? I'm sure different sizes, different farms.
Yeah, the tank is about 1 million gallons.
It's a ground-based equivalent to our water towers.
Wow.
And there's multiple, or just one, or?
There'll be 2 tanks.
This facility would have 2.
Is
explain
is EPD involved in permitting this?
Yes, sir. So because of the food waste, there is a handling permit, and we've been in contact with EPD and had that discussion. EPD, you can't make your application for the EPD permit until you have your zoning in place. But obviously, the engineers involved have already been communicating with the EPD, and we have a good idea about what's required. But the short answer to your question is yes, it will also be permitted by the EPD.
So explain your options as far as transporting to the pipeline. Truck is one option, the other option is a big pipeline itself. Just tell me how that will work. I mean, kind of lay that.
It won't be a big pipeline, so it would be a 4-inch line that would transport the gas to a large interstate transmission line. And so we're in discussions with the transmission line in the area. There's about 2.5 miles south of this site. And so we're working on determining if it's viable to be able to, run a 4-inch HDPE depressurized line out to the Williams pipeline to then inject into their transmission line.
So you'd have to acquire more property or do easements, or how would that work?
It would be easements, yep. It kind of depends situation by situation, but it would either be us or the actual utility company who would work with landowners to get easement permission. And that's one of the things that we're working through. If there was a scenario where that wasn't feasible or we weren't able to get easement permission, that's likely where we would end up trucking instead.
You made the statement right at the beginning that you would entertain improving George Williams to more of a commercial road, or to handle that type truck traffic. Because if you're saying 20 now, it'll be 40 or whatever for this type facility.
Well, yeah, Mr. Chairman, I think, yes, so he was nodding his head. Yes, we would certainly entertain that. The proximity to, I'll say, the proximity to Highway 11 was important, again, for picking this site, but understanding George Williams Road, we certainly would do that. But I will tell you, the estimates are 10 to 20 trucks, and that's based on, now they've done this, this isn't a new concept. This is something now they've done a number of times where they have a pretty good idea. So I don't think there's again, based on the limitations we have on the digestate that comes out of the system and how it gets used, we don't anticipate that truck number rising, something like 40.
And even if we were able, if we were to not be able to run the gas line over to the Williams transmission line and we were to truck the gas, that would end up being roughly 1 truck per day. So it's not any significant increase in truck traffic.
Too bad we can't hook you up to the new county jail.
All right, any other questions? We got several more of these to go through.
That's everything I had. Thank you.
Get us some, please come to the podium and ask your question.
My name's Tim Keel. Where's your product coming from?
So the food waste is sourced from kind of all over. It varies. The answer is it varies. It could be even in the county. But this facility, one of the things about, a question was asked about why Georgia and why here, is there's actually a plan to put what we call a depackaging facility in Gwinnett County. And so that so that the actual food waste goes to the depackaging facility. So that's not done at this location. And then it's depackaged, and then it comes into this facility in a tank. So it's totally enclosed, and it stays in a closed system going into that. So it could be anything from bad food from a grocery store, from restaurants, could be from a bad batch of beer, that or excess. I mean, that's a common one. So it'll be from
Corporate America waste a ton. When we had our produce stand, Walmart would send stuff hoping we would take it and unpack it just because the apple had a blemish on it. I mean, it's ridiculous at the loads they turn down and just.
I agree, but what we're looking at doing is now taking waste from another county or another state, from wherever. And we're already talking about trying to reduce the landfill part of it, and this is great, okay? From the gas part to the fertilized part that's going to be put on the farm or wherever, but should we be taking stuff from another county? And yeah, that's helping them out per se, but it's bringing it in on top of us at that point. And do we really want to do that? Think about it that way.
Thank you for your comment.
I appreciate the gentleman's comment too, and I'm sorry I missed his name. I will add, there's nothing that will be going into a landfill in Walton County from this. And the food waste that's coming in, while you're right, it may be coming from other counties, there's nothing that gets left in Walton County except for the digestate.
Except for the digestate.
And the gas that gets produced to come out. So,
what happens with your solids?
So the solids are a type of digestate, and the technology allows them to adjust how much is liquid and how much is solid based on what the farmer wants. So the solid is good for bedding. It's good. There are things the solid gets used for, and it just depends on the farm how they want it. So some places they are able to adjust and have more solids. In some places they don't want as much solids, and so you get more of the liquid digestible.
So both the liquids and the solids stay on the farm?
Stay on the farm. That's correct.
All right. Get us those contacts, and
You can just,
the board still, I don't think, is ready to make a recommendation till we do a little
Yeah,
more
Mr. Chairman, the request I would make, and it, with all due respect, this particular amendment, all this does is give you a chance to evaluate our application. It does not say you have to ever allow one as a conditional use. So our hope was to allow the
One step
done.
more.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir, just so then you can actually start considering our application. Obviously, we shared a lot about our application tonight because we want y'all to know, but then getting into the details of the application would be appropriate. I think until you have the text amendment approved, Sharna can't even really start reviewing this application for consideration. So that's why our request is that you pass this at your next meeting so that then we can start looking at the actual use of, that we're applying for.
I understand.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
We have looked at this, both on our website and And I would say, I talked to Sharna a little bit on, there's a reference in here to the BPD, that I think a reference to the Department of Agriculture since they're.
Happy to add that.
So those kind of things, and then I think soil amendments, oftentimes there's like a 100-foot setback of like where you're applying and stuff. I know this doesn't have the smell that most soil amendments have, but people are pretty sensitive generally about how close to property lines, or waterways, things that would, maybe all in the heartburn if there are setback requirements that are more like that or something in the 100-foot range.
For the soil amendments, you're saying for the soil amendment or for the?
Specifically for the soil amendment.
Yeah, no, that one.
I mean, like, in other words, you've got your farm,
Right.
trying to go right to the edge. Again, if it's somebody else's property, not property that's part of the same farm.
Sure. Yeah, no, we work together to try to think of everything, but that was the benefit of the work session, and we get to talk about things, if there's other things that we need to add. Sure.
All right, thank y'all. All right, is there any particular one you want brought forward to make comments on, and then we can go through the others? We have discussed number 11 and now number 7. If not, we'll
So
start with...
Megan asked if we do number 2.
All right.
Are you guys here to talk about any specific one?
Yeah, I was pretty interested in talking about it, or saying something about that, but I think most of the questions have been now answered. Trucking problems, we know it's methane gas, just in case nobody knew that. It's gotta be refined, it's methane, it's what's coming out of the ground, you don't need to do that. So the issues I had, I think have all been addressed with trucking and that sort of stuff. 20 trucks a day, is that going to go on 7 days a week? Does it go on just till you stop bringing in any raw material? Once your digester gets full, you can't process anymore, that's the way I understand it.
So effectively, the farmer is receiving that fertilizer material to spread, so, on a.
But your raw material is being brought in at a limited rate or unlimited rate?
It's a limited rate, the digester tank only has.
It only holds so much. So,
correct.
So as a business person, it sounds like to me that you made a contract with whoever processes your food waste, bring it to the farm, then you're gonna tell them, hey, I may not be there for a couple of weeks because I don't have any room, my digester doesn't have any more room.
So everything that goes into the digester is roughly in there for 21 days while the methane is captured. And so the trucks will come in and deliver food material on a daily basis, and the fertilizer product will be delivered to the farm on a daily basis. So effectively, the tank is full, and every day there's some material coming out and some material going in.
Yeah, food waste has gotta have some smell.
You got to feed it.
So
Feed the bugs.
It's what, it's waste. It should have some smell.
That smell
So
will
you
be
know,
that
if you got a health issue, it can become with methane gas a safety issue. Methane is highly volatile, as y'all know.
Well, the food waste right now is going to the landfills. So it's an attempt to try to utilize it. And
Mr. Chairman, it's in a tank. So it comes from a tanker into a tank. So as far as the smell,
it's not bulk food.
it's not.
Okay. All right, let's move on to number 2.
Okay. Number 2 is an amendment to Article 1, Relationship to Comprehensive Plan. The purpose that we had as the department for changing anything at all was just to get clarification so that the public understands that the character area map is a broad planning tool. It does not regulate zoning. It's updated every 5 years, and it is a tool that the commissioners can use to shape the growth of the county. Currently, we require all rezones to comply with the land use plan, with the character area map. If they do not comply, then they have to apply for a land use amendment as well. The Planning Commission, when they were reviewing this, they made a recommendation that the land use amendment subsection be removed. There are counties that don't require a rezone to comply with the land use, and I guess some of those are some of the members were familiar with that, but that was not submitted from the department, that was submitted from the Planning Commission. So our basic goal was to just clarify that it's a planning tool and that it does not regulate zoning.
Well, it's not set in stone.
It is not.
It never has been.
Correct.
Yet some of the public try to use it as
And that was
getting
my
away
goal,
from
was
you.
to try to explain. A lot of these amendments were a goal to try to explain, for the public, it's like buffers and stuff like that. But that was my goal, was just to clarify that it's a planning tool.
And this makes it more clear.
Right. And then it's up to, it's up to the board, and it'll be your decision whether you want to change it and us not require a land use amendment anymore. We currently require them.
I don't see any reason why you wouldn't still require it.
Right. Well, and like I said, I didn't propose that as a change
In other words, all she's
in the
trying to
ordinance.
do is to clarify that it's a tool, but she was still proposing that they would still have to apply for a change.
Right.
Just like they would have to apply for a rezone change.
Right.
Well, just making it clear that it's not set in stone, then the board would have the liberty to listen to the public
Right.
Change
and
it or not change it.
change it or not
That's right.
change it. And that's the way the authority needs to stay with the board in the final decision, and not some map that they used.
So I definitely appreciate the clarification, because I will say that as, prior to moving to Walton, this is what I went by, what my family went by, based on deciding where we were going to live. And we were told that this was not a tool. We were told it was the plan. And so I appreciate the clarification, because I think people that might be vetting Walton relative to whether or not they want to move here, and what the rules of the game are, so to speak, I think that it's really important to present this in a way that is accurate with how we do things.
Where did you get that information that it was set in stone?
Well, I was told that when...
She assumed it.
No, I called before we moved here. Now, the mistake I made was I took it at face value, and so that was a miscalculation on my part. But I called the Planning and Zoning Department prior, and when I asked about, in terms of vetting the property around us, what could we expect relative to how the county handles zoning or development around us, I was directed to the comprehensive plan. And so I agree with Sharna. I think it is confusing. Up until this point, it's been confusing. I would suggest that if you approve the suggestion for people not to need to request a land use change if it doesn't comply, it feels like the land categories they don't have any teeth. And so it almost feels as though, from my perspective, I don't understand the purpose of them. Because, for example, it certainly feels as though
We're ever changing, Megan. I mean, the county is experiencing requests countywide on the verges of, that's just a map, a planning tool that was, the first one, if you look at the one before that one, is different than it, and the one before that is different from it. We're ever changing, and some people like you and others say, oh, this is what the map says. You can't do nothing but this in it. BS. This board can approve developments and other improvements in this county. We are the government. That map does not rule the roost.
I understand that now. And so I agree with Sharna that it's really important to be clear. So what I would suggest then is just to be clear with the public and say that the land use categories as they stand on here essentially are meaningless. Okay? It really, because there is no conservation. For
They're
example,
guidance to the board and the public. They are not meaningless.
well, for example, the proposed language says they may be amended from time to time. Now, that is incredibly vague language. I mean, what does
Intentionally, yes.
exactly. And
Well,
so that,
I'm not going to argue with you on that. We understand your complaint, but we need to move on this. And a map is a tool.
right, I would just say then, I guess I don't understand the added layer of the land use category. Just go with zoning and let everybody know that zoning can go anywhere. I mean, you could have anything up here where I live in the,
That's required. You have to have this. We have to have a land use map.
okay, but then can you put it in the comprehensive plan that when you have the charts that say these certain types of zoning go in a specific land use category, it would be honestly easier if you just abolished that, if this is how we're gonna go, and just let everybody know, we're calling these land use categories, but essentially we can do anything we want to in any of them.
Exactly.
At least, but tell people
Exactly.
that.
That's,
But, okay, so the land use categories are kind of a paper tiger that we have to put in legally, but essentially, if you move into a place that looks like it's conservation on a map, you could have anything in there
exactly.
and make it really, really clear.
It doesn't say it's going to happen. It depends on who you elect that's sitting on this board that makes those decisions.
Right, but it's not clear.
Well, it's as clear as we can make it.
Okay, we disagree on that. We disagree on that.
We can agree to disagree.
We will definitely agree to disagree.
All right, thank you.
Sharna, I got a question on that. My question is how, isn't it like every 3 years or every 5 years? Every 5 years? And then we give the opportunity for public comment during this,
Several
because
months.
y'all send out a lot of stuff, and I think y'all even put on like it was a webinar or something.
Well, because it was during COVID.
It's very good,
So
but
we
I
had
remember
a
that,
lot of-
and given the opportunity for public comment and input
Several
from the
meetings.
community,
Yeah.
that sort of helps give as a guiding tool of, hey, what it's looking at. But it's anything, nothing.
The one I remember where we all met was Snows Mill Road. And on one side of Snows Mill, they were doing the, where residential could go. And on the other side it's going to be agriculture.
Yeah.
And Jerry Tillman wife came to a meeting and raised hell.
Yes, she did.
She wanted her side to be residential as well as agriculture.
Yes, she did.
About that.
Yeah, she led into them like, you're
Big
not.
time.
I do think the board uses it as a guideline, though. I mean, I don't think.
It is, it's definitely,
Gotta have
yes.
some sort of
I
guidance.
don't think if you look back over the history of my representation that we've like gone crazy straight away from
Well,
that.
and keeping.
But number two, just simply,
That has to be changed along with the rezone. I think it's consistent with how,
yeah,
at least the counties I'm deal with, all have that, yeah, you gotta, it should be, you guys should know when you're granting a rezone, that you're not just granting a rezone, you're granting a change to the land.
I'm talking in reference to my district. I don't
No,
feel like.
no, I'm saying, what I'm
Yeah.
saying is you do consider it, and
Yeah.
and by having the way it is in there, you are having to consider it. It's not something that slip through. You know that you're
Right.
changing the land use before you change it.
Exactly.
I just think from the public's view, just from the feedback that I've gotten from it, like when they decide that they're moving here from wherever, if they're moving from one side of the county to the other, they look at that and they think, okay, I'm going to make this much of an investment here and I'm going to have a mini farm. And a lot of times they're not expecting a whole lot of changes from that anywhere near them, which I think that's just the tool that when they look at it, but like I said, it's a reference and I agree with you, it's a reference. And
it,
go to the next.
it's a reference, and right now, there's hundreds of thousands of people in Florida bought their paradise, and God changed it. Insurance companies aren't paying. In 2022, the legislature down there, during tort reform, stopped them from hiring lawyers to solicit from the insurance companies, make them perform, and it's going to be a nightmare. Everything, people's going to lose everything.
Yeah, there's a lot of,
But
we definitely need to pray for them. That's a tough time.
this is just simply saying it's a tool, and it's a ever-changing tool.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we'll start
Anybody
with,
in opposition to recommending that one?
any changes to it? We're good? Okay, so number one is an amendment to Article 9, and this is to clarify what objects are allowed in the right-of-way, such as driveways and mailboxes, and then guidelines for that. Right now, we don't have any guidelines at all in the ordinance for mailbox structures. Brick mailboxes are allowed on interior streets of subdivisions where the speed limit is less, but they're not allowed on county roads. This revision also lists items that are not allowed in the right-of-way and gives Public Works the authority to remove it, either with notice or without. The Planning Commission asked, why would they move something without notice? And I said, well, if it was an emergency, if there was something that's, caused an emergency or whatever. So they ask that we just add the word emergency to that portion of the code, which I didn't have a problem with.
An example of that would be a water line break. We've
Right, and you
had
gotta-
brick mailboxes constructed unknown to the county on top of a water line, and they had to get access to it.
Right. So
Exactly.
it gives them the right to remove it.
Does anyone have a problem with that?
For what's currently existing, is it just going to stay until we need to remove it, I guess? For something like that?
If we have to move
Yeah.
it.
Because there was one on Bowl Springs over there that it was a big mailbox and they had a wreck and then I noticed they didn't come back with the,
They can't come back with a brick, because they have to come back with a post. The brick
Another area that
mailboxes have killed people.
oh, sure.
Another area that this may impact is on your roads that you choose to widen.
Sure.
People come in and put a big brick structure there, and then we widen.
Valley right now.
Then you're going to have either the road way too close to it or another user conflict.
Okay.
That just clears that up.
It does, yes. Okay, Article 3 is an amendment to change the open space regulations in OSC. The purpose of this amendment is to remove currently the open space that a developer has to deed and dedicate is 25% of the entire area. 50% of that 25% has to be buildable. So that means, you know, of the 25% that they set aside, half of it can be in the floodplain or wetlands or groundwater recharge, but half of it has to be good buildable property. The reason that the department proposed this change is because at almost every rezone hearing that we have for residential, there's always a concern about protecting the environment and protecting wetlands, protecting groundwater recharge areas. So I thought, well, why don't we just allow them to put the whole area, you know, not limit them on having half of the open space to be buildable. Just let it all, if they, you know, choose to, it could all be in the environmentally sensitive areas. One way to look at it is if you don't and you require them to make half of that open space buildable, then what they're going to do is that environmentally sensitive area is going to be added to somebody's lot, where they're going to put pesticides and everything else that they do to make their yards beautiful. This protects that area. One of the planning commission members said, you know, well, this is a giveaway to the developers. And I said, if you want to look at it that way, you could, but our intent was to specifically protect environmentally sensitive areas. It's not going to keep a developer from putting pickleball courts, pools, all that. If they're going to do that, they're going to have to put it in a buildable area anyway. They're not going to put it in floodplain.
They can put walking trails in.
Right, they can put walking trails in there. So, and I'm going to deal with a little bit of amenities in another one, but that was the purpose of this. If the board so chooses, if not, but that's why that's being proposed.
All right, my concern about this one is the difference between intention and actual impact. So I understand Sharna's stated intention, and she and I have spoke about this before when I had some concerns. When the OSC zoning was, 50% of the conservation area could have been, had to be buildable area or buildable land. This proposal makes it so that all 25% of that open space conservation can be non-buildable land. Now, as a developer, they're not going to develop land that does not meet their profitability threshold. So in terms of the impact of this, it is likely to take a parcel that would not be financially attractive to a developer to develop in the beginning at all without the OSC zoning. When you add that OSC zoning and say that all of that 25% can be non-buildable land, then you're financially structuring it so that all of a sudden that parcel is likely to be potentially meet the profitability threshold of that developer. And therefore, they're going to develop it. So it's under the guise of conservation, but in the reality, you're likely to get more parcels developed this way under this. So it's going to have, in my opinion, with the grandpa who's a builder, it's going to have the opposite impact relative to its stated intention. So that's my concern with it. I would prefer that you, at the very least, leave it the way it is. And as you can see, if you look at the last few meetings, we've had a significant amount of rezone requests that have been OSC zoning.
110 lots.
Pardon?
110 lots.
Yeah, I mean,
110 out of 330,000 square miles.
Okay, that was in 1 month. That was 1 month. And so if we're doing that every month,
We're not doing it every month.
well, stay tuned. Stay tuned. That's my concern.
It still doesn't change the amount, though, of the density per acre of whatever
That's
the
correct.
zoning is.
It doesn't
correct?
increase their,
It doesn't change the density per acre on the zoning. This is for open space conservation,
Only.
which is your overlay district.
correct.
And, you know, there's people out there that love the green space. And it's better than having lot to lot on most part. We don't require our green space to encompass the development, do we?
We don't. We do require a buffer around it.
You require a 50-foot buffer. Okay.
So you're essentially getting some more
Yeah.
protection.
Okay? So that is just, you know, we'll leave that up to y'all if you want to change it. That was my thought behind it.
Well, you have a couple other things. Discuss the possibility of requiring open space around.
Right, it's the very next one.
perimeter. And I think when they're developing, if it's 75 lots or more, they should consider, that we should think about considering amenities. 75 lots needs a clubhouse at least for the homeowners association to call meetings and look after the
We're
subdivision.
talking about 7.4 now, right?
Yeah, that'll be on the next one.
That's when he's talking about, right?
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so amendment number 4 is to amend section 4. The main purpose of this amendment is to ensure that citizens realize exactly what the buffer around the perimeter is and what can be done in that buffer area. Septic systems and drain lines are currently allowed in the buffers, and a property owner should have some discretion in maintaining their yard. When residents beside a proposed subdivision hear the word buffer, they automatically think that it can't be touched. And so they are allowed to keep their property cleaned up to the property line, but they want this subdivision to leave a 50-foot buffer for them, you know. So it's currently called a transitional buffer. Normally, a transitional buffer is something that separates commercial and residential. So I was just wanting to take out the word transitional so that it's not confusing. I wanted to add guidelines. Currently, it says that the development shall maintain or create a natural vegetative buffer of 50 feet when adjacent to perennial streams or wetlands. A 100-foot non-buildable buffer is required along the road, and then a 50-foot transitional buffer is required around the perimeter, except when it abuts another subdivision. So the wording that I would propose is that the 100-foot buffer, non-buildable buffer along the road would remain. A 50-foot buffer is required along the perimeter except where the property abuts a residential subdivision in A1, A2, and R1 zonings. Within these buffers, the natural topography of the land shall be preserved, and existing growth shall not be disturbed except where necessary to remove dead or diseased trees and undergrowth. To enhance the buffer, except where to enhance the buffer with additional landscaping, to prevent or control erosion, or for septic repair and drain lines or utility encroachments. If grading is required, we did have one subdivision that I think that maybe it was the developer, I don't know, but anyway, they wanted to grade in that buffer area so that they had their lines and their repair lines already cleaned out. So what we did in that subdivision is we went out there, we met with them, we got them to install another row of trees, you know, that was a buffer between the house beside of them. So what I'm adding into the ordinance is that if grading is required in that buffer area, a site plan providing details of the disturbance and reestablishment shall be provided and approved by the department. And, I mean, you know, it's really like, you know, I mean, you wouldn't believe the number of calls that we get when somebody starts cleaning their property and clearing the grub that's in that transitional buffer, as it's called right now. And
This will make the rules more clear.
yeah, absolutely. And then on this one is where we had a discussion of requiring open space around the entire perimeter. So instead of like, you know, you could still have the buffer, the 50-foot buffer, but have a certain amount of acreage in the open space around the perimeter. And then, as the chairman said, when developing, we had said over 100 lots to require amenities such as clubhouse, pickleball court, walking trails. And I've noted your suggestion that
Well,
that change to
75
75.
lot, you got to draw a line somewhere.
Yeah. So,
And so many looking back of the OSC, they take a bad lot and bad area and make that their green space. And I really think we ought to consider making them have a green space around the development. And then if they got additional flood floodland, they just have to add that to it. It makes for a better development.
So we would have to decide, like, if you want 20 foot, 30 foot, or how much you want around that perimeter.
We'd have to decide that. I know of two people moved to Jackson County because the whole subdivision had the perimeter green space, and they loved that.
So it actually is a buffer for the neighbors too. I mean, it's something, it's green space for them
Especially
and
if you
them.
got green space to green space, it
It
gives a
is.
natural area all the way around. And I think we could plan toward that and maybe not make a rash decision, maybe urge the builders to begin with and see if they would do it voluntarily
Make it-
before we make them do it.
And just put it in the code to encourage it.
But,
I noticed y'all didn't put a pool on there for one of the amenities.
well, pools now are like tennis courts. They're a dying, people don't have them like they used
Hey,
to.
they're a money pit.
And it's a money pit, and pickleball or some sort of outside, mainly for the meeting area for the homeowners association. Because these homeowners, they're in charge of that subdivision after it's built.
Right.
And they're in charge in enforcing. So,
So this, you're gonna put that, this is gonna give us,
The biggest thing about having the green space around, you talking about maybe even walking trails or something.
yeah, I mean,
You'd be coming up behind people's houses.
well,
Have a lot of it.
that's, believe it or not, that's happening in a lot of
Oh, I
places.
know it is. I wouldn't want it.
It's hardly much different than walking in front of your house on the sidewalks we were required to do. You don't want nobody looking in your back door, do you?
Gotta get curtains now.
so this is gonna just be another option, basically, where if you put that in there about the perimeter green space.
It would be an option,
the-
yeah.
But it'd be mandatory on the amenities if we approve 100 or 75 lots, basically, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
That's up to the board, and we don't have to do it this next meeting either. You talk to the builders you know and the people you know and get feedback on that, because that's a big step, mandating a community center in a development. But some of the builders now are doing them anyway. And they're a draw for their community, to have the pickleball courts. Some of them's doing swimming pool and pickleball right now. But I feel like that's their choice, or at least give them options. But I like the green space, it being usable. And they can still use the creek beds, I guess, as green space, but floodplain is unusable anyway. So,
Okay, amendment number 5, this is some changes to our litter control ordinance. It's being proposed with the intent of helping code enforcement with litter control violations. We are adding definitions, we're changing the definition of litter because ours was very, it didn't have a whole lot of meat to it. We're adding egregious litter, rubbish, and trash definitions. We are also adding some information about burned structures. Right now, we deal, like if we get a call that, this house has been there for a year, and the investigation has to be over by now, we really don't have anything in our ordinance except to deal with it as litter.
to make them clean it
Yeah,
up.
so this is adding some guidelines for burn structures to require them to have it removed.
This is actually part of moving forward with becoming more proactive in code enforcement and dealing with things that we know are going to be issues or complaints, but being able to have the tools and the teeth to do so.
Talking about that, not a week go by, I get somebody call me out, come look at a neighbor, junk cars in the yard. Some of them throwing trash, just piles of trash bags in there. Can't we make these people clean under the present codes?
We can,
Okay,
yes.
so all we
And
gotta do
so-
is tell on them and get y'all
That's right.
involved.
And what
We have those cases pretty regularly.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
And we're working, John, we've been working on getting areas established, but right now I'm short a code enforcement officer until the 1st of November. But after that, we can get those areas established so that we can be a little more proactive on that type of.
No, I agree with you.
It will put specific people responsible for specific zones. Now, they can help each other, but it'll become more of a,
It's horrendous.
There's one right there on Mountain View. Called them last week about it. But no, that's good. It'd be good to be proactive in this approach rather than us having to wait on a call and then us call you and then, hey, can you go look at this if you're driving by it?
Yeah, we're
All
moving
means
in that
stop.
direction. We're moving in that direction.
now, it takes a little bit to turn that ship because we've been reactive for so long and things tend to escalate on certain areas.
You're gonna have somebody say, I've been living here 25 years like this, and why now all of a sudden you come in to pick on me?
Right.
Same answers on zoning, things change.
A lot of these are repeat offenders. We see.
Can I ask a question on this trash?
Please come up here.
Yes, sir, come on.
We are video streaming, so if you'll use the,
What's your name?
that wasn't a warning specific to you, by the way.
On this trash, now, just a week ago, 2 weeks ago, somebody down on, decided that 790 Criswell Road was a dump. And they dumped a whole trailer load. I mean, you wasn't just going to pick it up like I normally do and take it up to the house. The thing that pissed me off is I called the county, and at this point I said, you've got to come out here and pick this up. So no problems as far as the county coming out and picking it up. I mean, they did leave some, and it was an advantage for me, because I called them back and said, you left a couple of boxes, but it was good because you can't stop stupid. They left boxes there with their addresses on it, and I cut it out. Now, I said to them, I said, well, why don't you get in touch with this people that I have this address on and get them for illegal dumping? They don't do that. So now I'm going to turn around, go to the sheriff's office, and I'm going to give stupid their addresses on all of this garbage. But it seems as if the county could do that. They could say, something, I got to do something with this if you have that amount of garbage laying out there in the road.
The Roads and Bridges won't do it, or Walton Clean and Beautiful won't. The sheriff or Shauna and them get it to the code department.
Yep.
Or the sheriff's department.
That's where I'm going.
And they'll pay them a visit.
I would say the code department would be where I'd start. The sheriff's office is pretty busy. They got a lot going on.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you. All right.
I need some clarification on this one, because I think on public right-of-ways, I can see run with this. My concern, however, is litter. I keep a load of sand, I keep a load of wood chips, and I keep a load of gravel. There you go, sorry. And I keep a load of gravel on my property for maintenance, at extra maintenance and touch-ups at any point in time. I would be in violation of that based on how litter is defined, because this is not just applicable, based on how I'm reading this, to public right-of-ways. It is also applicable to residential or farm properties, okay? So I live in A1, but based on how this is written, I would be in violation with sand, gravel, and wood chips. So I do have a problem with that. My other question is, do these items have to be visible from the naked eye at the road, or is the county, the way this is written, this leaves it open for the county to enforce via other mechanisms,
Yeah.
such as drones or aerial surveillance. So I need to know if that's something I need to be concerned with.
We'll be dealing,
No, I know,
Yeah.
but as a lawyer, it's not in here, so,
Well, Megan, you missed my remarks at the beginning of the meeting. This is not a question and answer session. No response from the BOC is required. We'll take your comments into consideration, and if we feel like we need to reach back to you, we will.
okay, then my concern is that this extends to farm properties, and most farm properties have gravel or wood chips or things like that, but based on the way this is written, they would be in violation of that, so that's my concern.
Thank you.
There's an exemption right here. Included, not listed.
Sharna, we'll be utilizing plain view,
Yes.
just as in any other law enforcement
Yes.
mechanism, correct?
Correct.
All right, what's next?
Okay, amendment number 6, we are just changing the definition of residential care facility to further show that this is for children under the age of 18. Right now, we have in Article 6 that they have to follow certain regulations. We've got some pretty good regulations that we came up with our fire marshal about the personal care homes, so we're just going to require these type facilities to use those same,
Same language as personal care. All right.
right?
Anybody have a problem with that?
Nope.
All right, number
Okay, number
8.
8 is just a little bit of cleanup. The definition of automotive major repair and maintenance currently says non-commercial trucks, and which would mean nobody can work on non-commercial trucks.
You
then
added
equipment and
commercial
construction.
trucks, farm equipment and construction equipment,
Right.
or is that being deleted? That's added.
That would be, I'm sorry, I didn't understand you. What'd you say? It's
Added.
added, yes, sir. And then we're adding a definition of opaque fence.
All
It's
right,
required a lot in our ordinance, and there is no definition.
Anybody got a problem with that?
Okay. Article 9. Okay, so currently in the outdoor storage of commercial vehicles, we have listed recreation vehicles, dry storage, pleasure boats. We're taking that out because those are regulated in another portion of the ordinance. And we're adding for outdoor storage of commercial vehicles that the site must have direct access to an arterial road, that all storage parking shall be paved with asphalt or concrete. Alternative pervious paving products can be approved on a case-by-case basis.
Let me stop you right there and ask here. For truck and trailer parking, to have it asphalted, they're going to tear it up, back and turning, and it creates a lot of runoff too. I don't have a problem with gravel as long as the entrance is paved.
And it would be
so they
required to be
can,
paved.
Not take gravel out in the road and stuff, say 50 foot
Okay.
of the entrance. What do y'all think?
Would that be gravel with something like a liner? Because a lot of times, some of the bigger trucks and stuff, they have a lot of runoff from them. Like a lot of stuff, I mean, they leak, they drip, they do like all kinds of stuff, and that's one of the things. There's somewhere that something's required when you allow that they have to have some kind of liner up under it.
Under
Is it not?
the gravel.
I'm not familiar with that. I just know that gravel parking, when it comes a big rain and stuff, water can be absorbed in the ground. And you asphalt this big area, you're going to create a bigger river downstream. And
I like that. Yeah.
I'm for the gravel, no paving. That's me.
you have a problem requiring the main entrance be paved.
Yeah, I mean,
And that would be required anyway, so, okay. So we'll look at possibly,
And we have a lot of them already around that are gravel.
but I think we ought to maybe say you gotta have, I mean, if you wanted to say you had to have 6 or 8 inches of gravel or something,
I think 8 inches
At
would
least
be,
instead of just putting a little layer out there.
no, you don't want
Yeah.
3 inches of gravel. You need to specify
Do you want to, like, number whatever stone, or?
57 is the last coat. You may have to put bigger underneath.
And tell me, do we make them put in some type of detention pond depending on the size of it to like catch
That's-
some of this stuff?
We figured that out during the engineering of it.
I mean, some of that makes sense, like, so even if you did have runoff, you'd sort of catch it before it got out.
Just about everything.
It's according to how much the runoff coefficients are, so.
Some sort of catch, yeah.
Yeah, I marked it up.
Yeah,
I heard that before. Somebody here sells those underground detention ponds. Oh, man.
It's not for me.
Well, any kind of detention to slow the water down is good, because sometimes these rains come fast and heavy. All right, that covered.
Anything on that one? Okay. All right. Amendment number 10 is amending Article 7, general requirements for parking and off-street parking. We're adding parking prohibited in certain places. No person shall stop, stand, or park a vehicle except where necessary to avoid conflicts with other traffic or in compliance with law or the direction of law enforcement or traffic control devices at any place prohibited by ordinance and indicated by official signs or markings. And that is just to help code enforcement as well. Right now, we've had an issue with some big trucks parking on the side of a road, a small side road. And, we really didn't have a whole lot that we could do. We did get the sign department to put up some signs, but this gives us the teeth that we need to be able to enforce
Where
it.
you can write a citation.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, the other side of that is that some of these tow lots would stage vehicles so that they didn't have to worry about having access into the fenced-in area. So there were vehicles being stored outside, causing sight distance problems.
Right.
Anybody got a problem with that?
Nope.
All right, let's
Okay.
move on,
All
number
right.
12.
So amendment number 12. This will be something new that we will add into the section 1 to cover zoning of properties that are de-annexed from a city into the county. We worked on some verbiage, and then I worked with Chip. So at the bottom, you'll see any developed property which has been de-annexed from any municipality will be subject to the zoning classification that most closely matches the zoning classification governing the property when it was in the municipality, as determined at the discretion of the Board of Commissioners. And then any undeveloped property that has been de-annexed from any municipality shall be zoned A1. So, because the way it works, when they bring it here and we have to give a resolution for de-annexation, then they go to the city and they're de-annexed. Well, until they come here and get zoning, there's no zoning on that property. So,
There was zoning on the property before the city annexed it,
unless it was in the city, well, at
unless it's
some
in the
point.
city prior to zoning.
So that's why we're just going with the A1.
Okay.
And then they can come in and apply for a rezone if they want to change it to something different.
All right.
You,
Got rid of that grandfathering language.
We did, yes.
Chip, are you fairly comfortable with A1, being that you can do so many different things in A1?
I think that's I think Charlotte's thinking that was the safest.
It was the safest and, like what the majority of the county is still zone A1.
Okay,
So we
I just want to make sure that was.
Right. Okay. Our amendment number 13 is to add golf courses as a use in the A1, A2 by conditional use. And then in the commercial areas, they would be allowed by right. And right now, we don't have anything in our ordinance at all for golf courses or
Which
driving ranges.
we have paid dearly for.
Well, yes, we have. So we wanted to add something in there for that. Okay, amendment number 14. Okay, currently our fence regulations are very minimal. They're actually in Article 10 where nobody would ever know where to find them. So we're going to put them in Article 6 where all of our other supplemental regulations are. And we are adding some guidelines. And if anybody has any question about these, I'll be glad to, we'll be glad to talk about it.
Well, there'll be no, the way I read it, there'll be no chain link fence and R1, 1 acre lots in the front yards at all, or between property lines. It'll be wood or woven.
That's right. That's exactly right. Brick, stone, wood, wrought iron, split rail.
And then when you get up to the 2 acre lots, then they can have fencing for their animals and
Right.
stuff.
That's right.
And you can't use, like we've had a guy do a privacy fence out of junk, fiberglass sheathing and stuff. That's going to disallow that from now on, right?
Right.
I like it.
I seen one the other day that was aluminum, they put like aluminum, and it was going back to American. And it was just a,
Did I skip over what?
for a roof.
She went over.
What did I skip?
They was mighty quick. They was quick. They was quick.
Well,
Anybody-
I skipped over one that we had already done. We had already done 11.
We
did 11.
We did 7 and 11 first.
Right, right.
On the clubhouse, right?
Yes.
40,000 square feet, ain't that a little bit much? I think
Let's see here.
Country Club clubhouse, Chip, you know? It ain't that big.
Let me see.
40,000 feet, damn big place.
That's got to be a typo, yeah. Where's that at now?
It's on the second page under.
I knew Mark would read the golf course.
I was counting on it.
40,000.
That's like a warehouse.
Yeah, that's big.
Yeah, that's,
You might-
You know, 4,000 square feet is a big clubhouse.
Ooh,
40,000 is
40,000.
that
Number
is
two.
very, yes.
4,000.
Center.
40,000.
Yeah, I think that should be 4. Not, well, should it even be 4? Page 2 of 2 on the, number 2, 40,000 square
I think
foot.
it's talking about,
Oh, limitations.
That's the max.
well, it says,
40,000.
use limitation.
Yeah,
2,000 square feet of gross floor. So it's a pro shop can only be 2,000 square feet.
that would be right.
And then a clubhouse or club. So it looks like it's putting maximum.
Yeah,
It
that's the
couldn't
max.
be over that.
40,000 for 18 holes
Anybody building one bigger.
and 10,000.
No, I don't think so.
If we're requiring 40, that's huge.
Yeah, no, we're not requiring.
It's the minimum.
Yeah, right.
I know we was really gonna have to build on.
Okay, all right, so we're good on that then. And then we got number 14. Okay, number 15 is just again for clarity on this one. Public water systems, we require, if a developer is developing property and water is within 1,500 foot, they have to connect to the water. And all we're doing here is just to clarify that if they're doing the open ditch or the rural public road, that they have to, if it's within 1,500 foot, they have to hook up to the water.
Does that apply to single residence
No, no, just develop.
or development of
No, no. Because those are two kind of developments that,
They can still put their own private water system in, can they not? If there's no water around,
yes, yes, they can.
do the wells and private water systems?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, amendment number 16 is an amendment to, in Article 6 for flag lots. And the reason for this amendment is to define where the setbacks are. So if you're thinking about a flag lot, so you have your flag pole and then you have your flag. Well, the minimum required front setback in the code is 50 foot off the road. That's not where we want the front setback on that lot. We want it back here.
You want it 50 foot from when it
Yes.
squares off of the flag?
That's all that is
So
just
100
clearing
feet,
that up.
just like what we proposed in the subdivision, is that what you're saying? Okay,
Yes,
so a minimum 100
50 foot from that property in front of them.
But it won't
Be
be
their
off the
setback.
road, it'll be off where the
Or
lot
off the road,
lies. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Or amendment number 17. Okay, so this is just getting into compliance with DCA about developments of regional impact. They updated the tier and the chart, and of course, we have to comply with what they say, so that's what this is doing. It's just getting us into compliance with what DCA requires.
All right. Number 18.
Number 18 is very similar to that. We had amphitheaters, we had the actual guideline that they had in the DRI list, which changed. So we're just taking that out and saying that it has to comply with that appendix.
Is
So
that
if it ever
because of the
changes-
county's amphitheater?
No. We good? Okay.
All right.
Amendment number 19. Okay, this is another one that's for code enforcement. Kind of beefing up the definition of an abandoned junk vehicle and actually adding, okay, the Planning Commission, one of the Planning Commission members wanted us to add under Section 7-2-150, no person in charge or control of any property within the county, whether it's owner, tenant, occupant, lessee, or otherwise, shall allow any abandoned junk vehicle to remain on such property or adjacent right-of-way. They wanted me to add or adjacent right-of-way longer than 7 days. You know, in subdivisions, sometimes cars park on the right-of-way. This is to be able to enforce if it's a car that doesn't run and has been sitting there for more than 7
And
days.
we get a good number of complaints about that.
About that, yeah.
Uh,
It wouldn't apply to just somebody
Isn't the
parking.
term junk vague?
Well,
Would you say inoperable? or-
okay, so that's why we were we redid the definition. So it would be any vehicle, automobile, truck, van, trailer of any kind or type, or any contrivance or part thereof,
Okay.
with or without a current license plate, which is wrecked, dismantled, partially partially stripped, inoperative, abandoned, discarded, and kept, parked, stored, or maintained on any premises or public right-of-way.
All right.
So,
I think you
we
got
tried
it
to
all.
define that.
Does that include tractors?
Yeah.
Only available by, or seen naked eye at the road?
Or a complaint. I mean, so, yes, I mean, what,
If your neighbor
okay.
So, yeah, so if it's either plain view, seen from the road, or if you're invited on another's property that you can see that direction.
And that would be by
So if
complaint.
someone comes over to my property and there's a car that can't be seen by the road, but it fits this description,
They
they
can
can
complain.
complain that it's on my property even though no one can see it?
That's correct.
But the neighbor would have to be able to see it to complain.
No, that's what I'm saying. The neighbor comes on my property.
No, they can't come on your property. They have to see it from theirs.
You gotta invite them. For
So
the,
she's saying, no, what I think they're trying to say is if the neighbor can see it from their property, then they can.
they can complain. Okay, let's see, amendment number 20. Okay, this is just a cleanup. When we changed the
From
width of the
22
road
to
for-
24.
Right, this is just the
And this is
2,400
the
overlay.
shorter streets don't have to be the
Right,
24.
and so we're taking that out so that we're in compliance with our fire regulations. And let's see, this is another cleanup, manufactured home. Anytime we get a call, and somebody wants to know what the single-family dwelling requirements are, we give them, what was adopted by the board not too many years ago, which says no aluminum or vinyl siding. Whether it's a manufactured home or a stick-built home, they're all treated exactly the same. This is in Article 6, and it was not changed, so that's taking that out.
That's just cleaning
Just
that up.
cleaning it up.
And for those that still listening to this boring meeting, manufactured homes are allowed in Walton County.
Yes, they are.
And by law, we have to allow them. They're affordable homes
All single-family.
in the
homes are treated the
A2,
same.
A1 zoning. and we're just trying to get them, we raised the pitch somewhat, not as much as we want, and now they have to do the hardy plank or true wood siding instead of vinyl and aluminum.
Is there any way to, this is just a question, that with us adding this and putting this in there, does that bypass somebody from being able to go and get a variance? Because it seems to happen a lot.
Yes, it does happen a lot.
Here.
And it's approved.
And we have no control over our appeals board.
I agree, I'm just saying, we're taking a lot of time and a lot of interest in doing this.
And then they go get a hardship case. 'cause
Yeah,
it
why
costs a
do
little
we
more.
do that? I mean, can we not make it, I mean,
It's pretty common that just about, a good majority of the things that go before the Board of Appeals, which are essentially requests to ignore the code, a lot of those are getting approved. Would that be accurate?
That's correct.
I'm not sure that that's really what a variance is for. I mean, a variance is for.
I'm not sure it is either, but that's what's happening out there.
We win at that?
I don't think we should allow them to do
We'll talk about
that
that.
on
But yeah, I mean,
Each one of us need to talk to our appointee.
variance by definition is supposed to be,
I've heard that that's not.
when it's something beyond your control.
A waiver.
You didn't take a bait, did you?
And it's not caused by your.
Can you look at
don't
that?
cause it yourself.
Can you look at that, Chip, and see what we need to do to keep that from happening as far as a legal standpoint? Because that is, I don't feel like this board should be getting bypassed for, it's, we're just, as we,
What you're describing, I don't think is what a variance is.
no, and we don't need to let people take advantage of that,
Well, they are. All right, any other questions? The agriculture one is the one that we are nowhere close to being comfortable with. Okay. All right, thanks, everyone. Good to see everybody's cheerful face.